You may have heard that the Chinese word for a crisis is the same as the word for an opportunity. Now that's actually not strictly true, but let's run with it for the moment for the sake of creative license. Most of my videos so far have involved taking you on a two-wheel tour of Portugal where I live, showing you the bikes I own and get to ride in the sunshine like this Yamaha Ténéré 700, more often than not with the gorgeous backgrounds afforded to me by the local countryside. But as self-isolation and social distancing are now the norm, I'm a bit stuck, and while it could be argued that going out filming for you is technically going to work, I don't really think that would be in keeping with the spirit of the lockdown. And after all, the BBC has postponed filming EastEnders, so I feel duty-bound to do likewise. I thought that for this video, by way of a complete change and as a way of turning a crisis into an opportunity, I would look at the psychology of riding motorbikes. Why do we love them so much when they are such an impractical, uncomfortable and dangerous means of transport? But before I carry on, can I just say a big thank you for all the messages of support that you've sent me over the past few months. I get many comments on my voice, which is nice as no one had really mentioned that to me in the past, and you seem to like the style of my videos, the narration and the humour, so thank you, it's much appreciated. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, well thanks, but don't, because I don't have a Patreon account and I doubt I ever will. Not really my style. I don't have RocketMan merchandise for sale either. I mean, seriously, do people actually want to wear YouTube channel t-shirts? Even I wouldn't wear RocketMan apparel, it's my channel and it's got a half-decent name. Similarly, feel under no obligation whatsoever to subscribe or hit the bell icon, a wonderfully mellifluous sentence if ever I've heard one. Actually, a like would be nice, as these do allow me to gain a fairly accurate picture of how interesting you found each video, but if you can't be bothered, I totally understand. Anyway, back to bikes. Do you remember the old joke about mankind's greatest inventor? It wasn't the guy who invented the wheel, but rather the guy who invented the second wheel. What they mean, of course, is that what really made a difference was the invention of the axle, or more accurately, putting two axles together, as on its own a single axle with a wheel stuck on each end is a bit pointless, as amply demonstrated a few years ago with the arrival of the infinitely irritating hoverboard. You see, you require at least one more point of contact with the ground, a second axle and wheel set to make four wheels, or at the very least someone's feet to achieve equilibrium. So about 5,000 years ago, mankind got the cart, and then the wagon, the carriage, and finally, quite recently, the car. So, given that it took us 5,000 years to perfect the car, or at least a four-wheeled vehicle, how and why did we take an engineering step backwards and end up with the inherently unstable two-wheel motorbike? What sorcery allows us to swing the second wheel round and put it behind the first wheel rather than next to it? The answer is something close to the hearts of many a motorcyclist: speed. And speed, or rather the gyroscopic effect of the wheels as the rider gathers pace, is why a motorbike can remain upright when it's in motion, but will naturally want to topple over when it's at a standstill. Gyroscopic principle is the tendency of angular momentum to go where the torque is, which in our case is on the road in front of us. You can achieve stability at low speeds, of course, but you need a more massive wheel, like this. Try and look cool and sexy on one of those. And incidentally, the gyroscopic effect is precisely why ABS is such a godsend on a motorbike, because if you lock up the wheels under hard braking, you instantly lose the gyroscopic effect, and by extension, all stability. Assuming you manage to stay upright, there's still the question of why we would want to ride a noisy, uncomfortable, impractical, and inherently unstable means of transport. After all, cars offer greater comfort. Modern car seats are often more comfortable than most chairs in our homes, and certainly in terms of weather protection, a bike can't hold a candle to an automobile. Cars' ever more sophisticated entertainment systems provide distraction and information, and we can talk to our passengers without having to shout. Yes, I know rider-to-passenger intercoms exist for bikes, but you might as well be speaking to the person on the phone. You don't invite someone to ride pillion to have a nice chat to you, do you? Cars also provide the sort of crash protection that bike manufacturers and riders can only dream of. You can't fall off a car or even out of one unless you're very unlucky. You can carry stuff in a car too, lots of stuff. Bringing home the obligatory 96 pack of toilet rolls from the supermarket on a bike isn't really an option, although ironically I suppose I could probably do it on my smallest bike, a step-through scooter, holding the rolls between my legs at least over a short distance. I would also argue that cars look sexier to a wider audience. Most people can pick out a good-looking car in traffic, but a motorbike? My wife just says that she likes black motorbikes. To the uninitiated, all motorbikes look pretty much the same. Ask my wife to tell a MASH 125 from a Triumph Speed Twin, for example, and I'm sure she would never have noticed that I recently swapped my Honda CB500X for a BMW F900XR if I'd kept quiet about it. They are both red after all. Bikes are expensive. They didn't used to be. Not so long ago, part of their appeal was that they represented a cheap means of getting from A to B, cheaper than a car at any rate, and certainly more convenient than public transport. But today, they're barely any cheaper than a car to buy. The F900XR would, I think, be considered a mid-price bike in today's market, but with a few options, registration charges, vehicle tax, and annual road tax, there wasn't much change out of 15,000. Spending 20,000 euros or more on a new motorcycle these days is really not difficult, and that's one of the things that put me off my Triumph Rocket when it arrived in December last year. 23,000 for a bike. 23,000 was literally what I paid for the first house I bought, admittedly 35 years ago, but still figures like that tend to stick in your mind. That much money for what was basically destined to be a toy made me feel distinctly uncomfortable, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And it's not just the purchase price of the bike either. Despite the fact that I'm in my 50s and only do a couple of thousand miles a year on each of my bikes, insurance for them is at least equal to, and for some bikes, as much as 4 times what I pay for my car. The reason for this, and I mention it because I've had a few people querying the logic in the comments section, is because medical costs can quickly become extremely high, especially if the accident results in life-changing injuries, and so insurance premiums are always higher for bikes. So, we've seen that compared to cars, bikes are inherently unstable, expensive, uncomfortable, impractical, and dangerous. So why do we put ourselves through it? Why do we ride? You don't really need me to tell you that, do you? For me, it's the sense of freedom more than anything. I mean, take this magnificent road up in the hills of the Arrábida National Park south of Lisbon. Sure, you can drive along it in any car, but only a bike gives you a sense of freedom this high up the scale. Camaraderie and the feeling you belong to a group, the speed so vital when we had to hunt to survive, the passion of owning, maintaining and taming a beautiful but dangerous machine. It's fun, it's an anti-stress tonic, and you look cool. Enough reasons for you? Good. Let's hope we can all get out and about again very soon and start enjoying the spring sunshine. And as always, thanks for watching.